Hello, everybody. Welcome to Star Trek New Worlds. I was sweating there for a moment as the glitches, they kept on coming. You take a week off, and who knows what's going to happen. Hi, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful Easter, and welcome back to our Saturday live stream here at Star Trek New Worlds. If you're joining us for the first time, you're probably wondering what in the world is Star Trek New Worlds. Well, it is a turn-based strategy game that we play online with you using the rules of Federation and Empire as published by the Amarillo Design Bureau. And we show it to you using a platform called Vassal, which will illustrate the map, which I'll show you here in a moment. Yes, we all here at Star Trek New Worlds like to bring this to you live, both on or all on Twitch, Facebook Live, and of course here on YouTube, which is sort of our hub for all this stuff. So if you're catching us on any of those other platforms, thank you so much. And if you want to participate in the chat today, which you will see beside my head here, you can join us here on the YouTube channel, Star Trek or just New Worlds. You'll find us there, and you can participate in the chat, and away we go. Before I get started, there's a whole bunch of interesting things to talk about today. If you are so inclined and want to keep us caffeinated here at the channel, then please feel free to use that link, the coffee.com/New Worlds link, where you can send us or buy us virtually a coffee for $5 as a one-time donation. Or if you want to do this on a regular basis and you like what we do here, then we've got a couple tiers there, one of which where you can join our Discord channel and participate in the live chat, the fun banter that goes back and forth, and of course the narrative story that kind of evolves with regards to the role-playing aspect that we play out here in this game. You can also, if coffee isn't your thing, then you can also head over to our Patreon. The description is in the link to that is in the description for this video. You can head down there and check that out too. The tiers should match up exactly the same, so whether it's one or two, whether coffee or Patreon's your thing, however you want to support us, that would be wonderful. And of course, if you just like what we're doing here, then feel free to hit that thumbs up button. And if you want to follow us, then subscribe with alerts so that you can see when these things come live. And of course, many of the tutorials that we have coming out. Speaking of which, let me address that real quick. So thank you very much, everybody. I know last week I said that I was going to be publishing a number of videos on the Friday, the Saturday, the Sunday, and the Monday, and I deeply apologize. I was only able to finish editing on one of those videos, and that came out, of course, on the Friday, which was talking about supply. How did you like that video? Was it good? It would seem, based on YouTube, that not too many folks watched it. So you let me know if that's something you want to do more of. I've got Tech Tree 1 in the can, ready to go, and some other ideas sort of flowing out there. So it's all about time, because, of course, this isn't the full-time gig. This is just what we do in our weekends. Weekend warriors, you might say. So let's dive into, first of all, our community. Wonderful community that we have here. Oh my goodness, look at all this stuff. First of all, thank you so much. We're already in the double digits at 10 concurrent viewers for the live stream. Thank you so much. And let's take a look. Wow, the chat is just flying by. Let's welcome a couple of our regulars. We've got Eugene. Eugene, welcome back. It's been 2 weeks. I know, 2 weeks since our last live update. Front row seat, get that popcorn in hand, and away we go. So we got Paul and Daniel and Bill and Robert Martin. Welcome, Robert. Jim, the Hydran Theocracy. George Duffy. Hey, George, welcome to the show. We've got Chuck in the house. Who else we got here as I'm scrolling through? Just a lot of chatter going on. Vassal, originally known as Virtual Advanced Squad Leader. Interesting. I didn't know that. So 6 new animations done. Yeah! Okay, so for all those you don't know and you're just seeing that, Paul throwing that in there. So Paul is our resident CGI artist, and he is phenomenal. Any and all the work that you see on this channel when it comes to ship models and things like that, that's all him. So let's just give him a big round of applause for everything that he's done so far. And we've been working together on creating some sort of new animations, not only to be able to introduce into, various videos, but, create a new intro. The channel intro, the channel trailer has all been something that you've all enjoyed, or many on YouTube have enjoyed, and so we just want to create more of what you like, and away we go. So maybe a new refresh for the intro, a new trailer, since we are entering a new phase of the game. And speaking of the game, let's get into that. What are we talking about today? What we're talking about is, as per the description, what would happen if there was a Captain Kirk in the Klingon Empire, exploring brave new worlds, seeking out and conquering new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has conquered before. So, I don't know. How was my Shatnerian delivery? That's kind of what we're going. We're talking about the shift in economy for the Klingon Empire and what's going on. And in that discussion, talk about the strategy going forward in the next 5 years. We'll also do the turn 57, not 56, but 57 reveal. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, yes, the turns have been grinding out, and we are at 57. So we'll talk about turn 57, what's going on. There's some interesting developments that are happening. And of course, as we go on, I'll be pinging into the chat to get our feedback from various folks in game, to sort of supplement what we're doing, because it's going to be fun. I have just been joined by my four-legged Weimaraner, my dog Logie. He might bark during our live stream here, and away we go. So, and my wife's just off the side here trying to help him get up on the couch. Okay, so let's get into the game, shall we? Let's go to the map. All right, let's start the other way around. Normally, we do a clockwise turn here, where we go from the top, starting with Big Red, the Remans, and work our way around. But let's go the other way. Let's go counterclockwise today and just see what's going on with the Lyrans first, and work our way around the clock that way. You know, fair's fair. So let's quickly go over the EP and fleet cap, since it's been a couple turns since we've checked in, and let's see what is going on. So here we can see the Borak, again, a neutral, a minor faction. Let's ignore them. The Carnivon are at 38.5 EP. That's pretty good. Federation are the Federation are at 36. The Gorn, 39.5, but bam! The Hydrans also 39.5. Jeez Louise. ISC at 39. Everyone's catching up. This is crazy. The Klingons are at 40.5. The Kzinti, oh, that's a minor faction. The Lyrans, 37.5. The Paravians at 40. Sorry, that's a minor faction. Excuse me. I'm out of practice. This is ridiculous. The Remans are at 37.5. The Romulans, 37.5. And the Tholians at 39. Wow. Wow. So there is a large chunk of folks that are hovering around 39. Who knew that the Gorn, starting off the game, sort of, scraping the bottom of the barrel there economically, are now in the running for being the biggest economy in the game? Who knew? And the fact that their economy is bigger than the Tholians. I'm sure as we go on, that's going to change based on sort of the seeds that have been dropped so far. But very, very interesting. Let's go into fleet cap and just see where everyone's fleets are at as far as number of ships and what damage they can do. All right, let's expand this a little bit so that's a little bit easier to see stuff. Okay, so we've got the Carnivon with 57 ship equivalents. That's a lot of ships. Wow. Okay, so 57 ships. Interesting. The Federation, or sorry, I should say 134, 250. So attack factors of 134 and defense of 250. Wow. Okay. Let me just eliminate. There we go. So the Federation are at 36 ship equivalents with 97 attack factors and 157, getting so close to popping that 100 mark. The Gorn are at 39 ship equivalents with only 75 attack factors and 151. Excuse me. Now, what's interesting about the Gorn, as we've said before, their W ships were terrible. Their Y ships are not the best. And as they move steadily towards the M era, things will maybe shift for them. It'll be very interesting to see how their shipbuilding strategy evolves over time, because that has been one of the things that we've sort of observed about the Gorn, right? They've had smaller fleets, less powerful ships, but just as we discounted potentially the Gorn in the past with their smaller economy and so on, they are climbing up. So I don't know that we can necessarily discount them anymore. The question is, when the next conflict happens, will they be prepared? We shall see. Speaking of ships, let's talk about the Hydrons and their big 64. Oh my goodness gracious me. 64 ship equivalents with a 142, 247 split. Wow. Okay, so this is interesting. Okay, so 64 ships. That's, as far as going down the list, that is the biggest fleet so far. I see the Riemann number. It's coming, and it's going to swamp everybody. However, the ISC are at a slick 55 ship equivalents, and what's particularly interesting about them is that they have a 165 attack, 254 defense. The Hydrons have almost 10 ships, so 9 more ships, but the ISC have more attack and defense factors. Their ships are bigger and tougher. This is sort of the shift in their conflict that I was sort of waiting to see when the ISC pumping out the ships that they were going to do were really going to change things. So it'll be interesting to see this evolve. Let's go to the Klingons. Who knew? Klingons are at 51 ship equivalents and a 122-184 split. Yeah, they're kind of falling behind their neighbors. I mean, for example, let's look at we'll get to the Romulans in a second, but the Carnivons at 57 ship equivalents and a 134 attack factor. The Klingons are at only 51, so it's only 6 ship difference, but and the 122 to 184, that's quite the delta. Now, there's a reason why that is, and we can get into that as we go down. But yeah, I mean, what's going on, Klingons? We gotta pick up the pace. Let's go into the Lyrans. The Lyrans are at 42 ship equivalents with a 96. Again, knocking on that 100 attack factor door. 96, 197 split. Almost exactly 50-50. Very interesting. The Riemanns. The Riemanns. 74 ship equivalents. Good God. Good golly, Miss Molly. They are blowing everybody out of the water. And 205 attack factors. So they've popped the 200 mark. 205, 271 split. Wow. Okay, the Romulans are at 38 ship equivalents, very similar to the Gorn, and they are at a 95, 160 split. Again, quite the difference there. So if we look at this, there's really sorry, let me not forget the Tholians. The true silent but violent faction in the game. They are at 42 ship equivalents, which is a particularly interesting increase in ship number, with a 64 164 split. Now, it very obviously, as you look at those numbers, you can see this sort of settling in of layers. There are the folks that are pushing the limit of ship count. The Riemanns are almost in their own stratosphere, not only in the ship count in the sense of numbers of hulls that they have, but the fact that they've got over 200 attack factors. Like, the ships that they're building are just bigger, badder ships, right? So they're just really accelerating the total sort of offensive firepower that they have. There is no doubt, and depending on your football fandom and North American football, that is, the Riemanns are without a doubt the Tom Bradys of the world at this point. They are the winningest, the biggest, the best performing. They haven't been tested in battle yet, really, against another player. But when it comes to what they've got, they're, from a military perspective, number of ships, total attack factor, they've got the biggest hammer that they can drop. Then you've got sort of like this other tier of players that are floating in sort of that mid-range, like 150-ish range. And that's like the Hydrons, but they've got 64 ships, and they've got 142 attack factors, the ISC with 55, with 165. The Carnivon are getting close. I mean, I'll put them in that range because they're over the 125 mark. They're at 134 attack factors. So they're sort of at the lower end of that range as well. And then you've got sort of another group of people, kind of like what the Klingons are at, which is we're under the 125 bar for that. And we're between 100 and 125 for attack factors, but, comparable number of ships. And then you've got the lower end of the spectrum there when you've got around 40 ships or less, and your attack factors total are below 100. And so, for example, the Tholians, they're kind of unique because of how crappy their ships are in the beginning. But like the Romulans and the Gorn, even the Lyrans, you know, with 42 ship equivalents, but under 100 total attack factor, they're all sort of in that range. So it's interesting to sort of see the separation that's occurring in different aspects of the game. You've got the economic on one side. Of course, there's this clumping going on around the 40 EP mark with a number of factions. Then you've got the military component with how that's splitting up. And yeah, no, it's very, 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 very interesting. Okay. Oh, and that's one thing I should mention. I forgot. I'm a little out of practice. Of course, when it comes to all the EP calculations, there are a couple of minor factions that would influence the total EP for various factions. So, for example, I know that there is this developing planet, which would be 2 EP. So if we take 2 EP off of what the Gorn are making, so instead of 39, I think they'd be 37. Still, they're all floating around in the same mark. So once the Tholians get off their butt and start wiping out, conquering those other minor factions, and everybody starts dealing with that stuff, we can get that sorted out. But without further ado, let's dive into the Lyran side of the map. So I'm going to zoom in one more here, and let's take a look. So there's so much to talk about on the Riemann side. My head is hiding it, but okay, let's talk about what's going on the border here. Let's take away the ships for a second and just reassess where we're at when it comes to bases, resources, and so on. So right off the bat, as if we're looking at this for the very first time, which of course we are, what's so interesting about the Lyran map is the disproportional weight of all their resources and assets being on the right side or the east side of their territory. Look at how many resources are lined up on that border. You've got the Red Roost, which is that Paravian faction, and you know we can talk about them in a bit. But I mean, they're a minor, or they're a developing planet. So they're a developing planet, which potentially 2 EP. But 1, 2, 3 with this minor, this colony rather. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 EP, not including that Red Roost, all within striking distance of that border. If we go west of that border, 1, 2, 3. What is this, a planet? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's not quite 50-50, but it's a very close split where, just under 50% of their economy is right on the border with the Riemans. If I'm the Riemans and I'm looking at that, that's a juicy target. So and considering how big the Riemann fleet is, oh my God, goodness gracious. Okay, so that's how that's going. Let's look at the base distribution and things that provide supply, because that's how you can move your ships, right? So the colony provides supply. That's the benefit and the difference in this game versus resources, these numbers of dots here, and the colony. The difference is the economy or the economic contribution is the same. The difference is the providing of supply. So the colony provides supply, which we're assuming, let's say, is still three supply for the Lyrans. So if that's the case, we've got supply sort of along the stretch here along the border. You've got these various YBSs that are providing supply. And as far as the reach of the rest of their empire, you can see that the supply situation, the bases are positioned in such a way that they sort of barely reach the edges of their territory. Very efficient use of bases. But they're not designed or placed in such a way where they're... it looks very ad hoc. And there's not a lot of mutual support for the bases, meaning that with the extended reaction, which we talk about in that combat tutorial, not the combat tutorial, there's a reaction movement tutorial. So when we talk about reaction movement, the 2 hex reaction range that bases and other units like this have, there's not a lot of bases in the Lyran Empire that take advantage of that. There are a couple certainly on the edge of the border with the Feds here. So there's a cluster of 4 of these right here, and of course between this planet and this base here, and these 2 here. But as you can see, there's quite a spreading out. So it's ba-boom. Donation from someone, it says. Thank you so much for the coffee. Let me take a sip as I smack my microphone. Thank you so much for the coffee donation. Boom, let's get caffeinated. Right, so we've got these bases here. Kind of an interesting, like I say, one of the biggest challenges about this game, especially with the economics the way they are, is you never have enough. You never have enough money, and so it's just a matter of what are you going to spend money on and when. So the base infrastructure thing is really interesting. Let's bring the ships back and let's. Ooh, okay. The number of convoys is interesting, especially along the border. So first of all, I can see that there's at least 3 convoys in play right now for the Lyrans, which is interesting. They've got one over here with this base doing research for wormholes and so on. You've got the convoy here, 2 convoys rather, on the border, and it looks as though they're in the process of sort of building out bases and infrastructure to be able to support all the stuff they got going on here. So, for example, convoy number 3 here, which I'm hovering my cursor over, looks like they're going to build a base there. Makes sense. Are they going to build a base here or here where the YSR is? Oh, there is a base there. What am I doing? Okay, there is a base there. So if they build a base here, in Bravo 4, that'll be that mutually supporting dynamic I was talking about before. And they can sort of work that way down from Bravo 4 to Bravo 6 and so on and so forth. So that's good. It looks as though there's some thought into building out those bases and that infrastructure in that way. So that's really neat. And that's good. Like I say, it's all about money. You only have so much. Let's take a quick look at the sort of the units they have on the border. It looks as though the White Stripe fleet is about to smack down on the Red Roost. Let's take a quick look at the Lyran White Stripes. I feel like we should be playing some White Stripe music right now. That would, of course, YouTube would not like that, and that would shut down this stream. But White Stripes. Where am I going to find White Stripes? There we are, White Stripe Fleet. So the White Stripe Fleet. So the number of units here, we have a CA, so YCA, 3/6 ship with the Stalker team or Prime team. And then they've got a number of 4 destroyers and two frigates, so 6 smaller class ships supporting it. So it's good. That's, without a doubt, certainly a good number of ships to be able to support that fleet. Now, Red Roost has a ground base, a base station, and Shrike fleet, as I whistle in my teeth. So let's look at Shrike fleet. Shrike fleet has 2 frigates, a destroyer, and a YCA. Now, what's interesting about that, I mean, it's just a minor thing, but the YCA is a better YCA than the Lyrans, but that's just a tweak or it's just a factor of the factions there. Some of the flavor, you might say. So that we've got Shrike fleet. It looks as though that fleet might be close to or very near the number of ships that they would need to be able to take that planet. The determining factor will be how much damage can be soaked up by the base and the effect of EW in that battle. It'll be very interesting to see when, when the Lyrans do attack, and I'm assuming they will, the planet, how that battle goes. It'll be very interesting to see that battle because especially with the ships or the fleets at a disposition that's relatively close, basically there's a difference of 4 destroyers there, or 3 destroyers maybe, and to see what that difference does, how much more attack factor that contributes and so on. So Daniel, to you, be really interesting to see that combat when and if it comes. Let's take a quick look at the hidden dagger and enemy blood fleets just to see what's on the border so that we can all see how they are preparing for the hammer to drop from the Remans, because I know that's coming. Like, it's got to be coming. Okay, hold on. Let's find these fleets. Again, I just really hidden. There we go. I'm not loving the way that Vassal hides these fleets or, does this thing here. Okay, so we got enemy blood. Enemy blood? Enemy blood. Enemy blood. Foremost, no. Lyran reserves, no. It's here somewhere. Enemy blood. Oh my God, it's right there. I'm blinded by the light. My terrible singing, I know. Okay, so here we go. So Hidden Dagger, which is the one on the right, is the one right on the border here. And in that fleet, we have a DN, so Dreadnought. A good Dreadnought, actually. Yeah, it's a pretty decent Dreadnought. It's a 5.8, which is Pretty good dreadnought. Yeah. Okay, so that dreadnought, the YCA, 4, note 3 DDs and 3 FFs. So I wouldn't say like a massive fleet, but definitely like a decent and significant fleet overall. You've got the enemy blood, which is down near the southern area, so certainly able to move into that area if required, but not within reaction range or anything like that, which I don't know that there would need to be, but we'll have to see when we look at the remans. So relatively small fleet, a couple CAs, a CL, a DD, and an FF. So overall, and as we saw on the number of ships total, 42 with a 96, I think, total attack factor. They could field, if they fielded all of their ships to the border with the remans would outnumber them with almost a 2-to-1 ratio of ships. And with attack factors, they have just the attack factors. They have over a 2-to-1 advantage. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. Let's scroll down to La Fédération. And as we do so, I'm going to take a quick second and go into the chat because I can see it racing like crazy during what we're talking about here. Okay, Chuck's getting in. Can't capture bases. They can try to sabotage them. Okay, let's take a look. Oh, look at Yankee 7, he says. Okay. Well, look, let me... I'm not going to go back all the way to the beginning of the chat because, boy, do we have a lot of chat. We're going to start with... Bill Smith clapping. Dell, I taught him everything he knows. Honest, Gov. And since Jim says, and since the remans are the sons of Hydrax, he means I taught them both, of course. Chuck, there is a reason besides getting tugs late that I don't want to explore fast. Fair enough. Bill says, yep. Jim, again, the Gorns are 1 EP less. There's still a minor faction on the board. Yep. George Duffy, I recognize a good number of names from ADB discussion boards and Captain's Log. Maybe. George, I'd love to ask you the question. What's your experience with ADB and all that? I mean, obviously, it sounds as though you've been on the discussion boards and perhaps contributed to Captain's Log. I don't know. Or been involved in that. Please tell me more in the chat. I'd love to learn more. Jim says, ISC. So the ISC has a minor, which has 6 ships. So this, again, isn't the true state of matters. Yes, there is a minor faction out there. And totally true. Like the fleet cap numbers get augmented depending on what you've got with the minor factions as well. That is one of the sort of the challenges of this iteration of Vassal with the module that we have. We don't have separate minor factions within, let's say, the Lyrans or the ISC or anything like that. So it's a bit of a challenge when, for example, doing this live stream and going over that piece. But yeah, it's just, we got to roll with it. Okay, 38.5, still pretty good. Mr. Klingon Tyrant, of course. Yep, it's Bill. Well done, matey. Yo. Riemann Resources, soon enough, he says. Bill, thanks, Jim, but you're still yellow carded. Red card the Gorns. They just committed heresy. Look at Yankee 9, Chuck says. So let's go back to the map real quick and look at Yankee 9. Yankee 9. So I'm looking at Yankee 9, and I don't see anything in that hex. Oh, sorry, Yankee 7. I'm an idiot. So in Yankee 7, what he's referring to is... What he's referring to is this troop transport. So what this is it's a freighter. It moves it normally moves 1 because it's an early era, but based on the rules that as we're applying them in this game, excuse me, if the Lyrans have speed 5, which is it speed 5? Yeah, speed 5. Then they would be able to move, these freighters, that is, would be able to move 2 hexes. And if they move 2 hexes, that means it would be 1, 2, 3 turns away from being able to strike Red Roost. What's the advantage here? Well, this particular troop transport, it says G4, meaning that there are 4 G factors on this troop transport. And the ground factors are like battalions of soldiers. They'll be useful in doing 2 things. 1, taking out the ground base that's on the planet. That's good, because the ground base has one attack, but it also has EW. So taking out the ground base is good. Additionally, they can use them to be able to conduct assaults on the bases. So you could attack the base and destroy it or cause SIDS damage. So if you're successfully assaulting the base with ground factors, then you can, again, cause SIDS damage for every successful attack. The only challenge is that when you do that, you have to have escorts for those troop transports, and it significantly reduces the total number of attack factors that you can, like fleet attack factors that you can weigh against a target. It's a balance. It's like, what would you prefer, the ground assault component or the just overall damage component? It's yeah, it just depends on how you're going to play that. Will he wait to attack the Red Roost until that troop transport's on station? Interesting to note, or interesting to think about as we go back to the chat. Let's see here. So Bill says he is sending the Ox troop ship with 4G factors. Yep, so we just talked about that. Eugene, would a strike team be able to capture a damaged YBS? If it can, what would the... So we just talked about this, actually. I'll finish the question, sorry. If it can, what would be the need... What would then need to be done to make the YBS usable by the capturing party? Okay, so we were just talking about this. Short answer is, the way the rules are currently written in F&E as published by ADB, you can't. However, in the note of the rule where it says you can't do that, it says in theory you could, and in future iterations or future versions of the game or versions of the rules, they may include that. We've talked about it, and in the context of if you have, for example, what just happened with the Romulans and the Klingons and the Gorn and the Klingons, or Gorn and the Romulans, that is, we swapped bases, or there was an exchange of bases. So a base was captured or turned over peacefully, and then you have to convert that platform into your use. So as the rules are stated in F&E, no, you can't. In this game, New Worlds, I think we'll have to have a more robust discussion with Daniel, our game master, because the actual combat capturing of a YBS hasn't been discussed. So we'd have to discuss that. But theoretically, based on the rules as we currently have them, there is a mechanism to convert bases. So there's a conversion cost, Eugene, to answer your question around what would be required to make it usable by the other faction. You would have to convert it to your technology. Think as a comparison here. Think DS9. When the Federation took over DS9, there was this constant upgrade integration that was going on where they were converting Cardassian technology to Federation technology and so on and so forth. So there would be some kind of process like that, and basically that you pay an amount of EP and you can convert it over. The amount of EP is dependent on the size and the complexity of the base. So there would be a price for a YBS, different for a YDK, and different base stations as you advance in technology, and so on and so forth. The combat thing about the combat factor around capturing in combat, that would have to be something that would be explored later. Again, we'd have to discuss that. Currently, as it stands today on this live stream, we have not discussed or confirmed a mechanism to do that. Theoretically, it's possible, but as the rules state in the 2010 version of the rules in F&E, as per the core rulebook, you can't do that. So that was a long-winded explanation. Let's go back into the chat here real quick. Chuck, whoa, say the Gorn, or assist the marine assault. So yeah, can't capture bases. They can try to sabotage them, so basically causing SIDS damage. George says, big SFB player also helped with proofreading the Borak Starship book in SFU. Oh, wow, cool, neat. Sorry, it was E3, he says. That's George. Jim, nice, George, good to know. My God, I'm gonna have to get to the point where I can't read all the chat because it's so good and it's so like continuous. It's awesome, guys. You keep up the chat. It's good. The reason DS9 was such a maintenance hog was the Cardassian trashed the place before they left. So true, so true. All right, let's get into the Federation and move this tug along. Okay, so again, let's just take away the ships real quick in Federation space so we can get a handle on what's going on here. So we can see with the bases, I really like really like the way the Federation are kind of moving, because you can see like the base buildup is very structured. It's got that 2-hex layering I love. I'm just biased. And it's looking good. Like it's looking good. I don't see any new bases. Well, sorry, I should say that there is a new base right here in Papa 18, but it's not like there's a huge delta shift in the base building initiative or anything like that. But it's good when it comes to what's happening. When we bring the ships back, and I'll just look on the eastern side of the border here, this is kind of in the direction of what I was describing before a couple live streams ago, where I was describing this inevitable state where the Federation is going to have a wall of ships just moving east, exploring space as they sort of funnel into this section of the map. And it's awesome. Yeah, the Federation, I think, are really well positioned to sort of leverage their power relative to their neighbors, because in my mind, they're able to concentrate in particular ways, and I just think they're really well positioned to do a lot of good stuff. So yeah, you can see along the east coast here, or the eastern border, there's some good exploration. Almost every hex has a ship in it, and they're moving steadily eastward. All these, now I'll just confirm it, but I'm pretty sure all these fleets, the 9th, 8th, 10th, and so on, they're just a cruiser with a, let's look at 10th. Yeah, cruiser with a frigate and a prime team. So that's basically what's going on here. And they're just continuing to move east and explore. They're doing a little bit of that to the west, but that's the quote-unquote backyard. It's not necessarily territory that's up for grabs, although you never know. Things like wormholes and things pop up, and that makes things interesting. But nonetheless, that's what's going on this end. Two things to think about. One, you've got the Carnivon minor faction here that is still trying to be converted to Federation, to the Federation side. They're doing well in the sense that it's a happy plus, which means the next stage after that would be integrated. But that is quite a hurdle at the very end to cross, so we'll see how that goes. The Kzinti here are a different matter. They are difficult in the sense they're indifferent, meaning that they're not happy or mad necessarily at the feds. But as far as like a faction to deal with, let's just see here. They've got a YDK, 2 bases, and is that Patriarch fleet? Yeah, Patriarch's fleet. So, oh man, yeah. So from a fleet perspective, they've got a command cruiser. Their command cruiser is pretty good. It's a 4.6. They've got 2 of these YCSs are strike cruisers, so cruiser strike with a 3.6. I believe that the command factor for the strike cruiser is 8 and the CC is 9. I'd have to confirm that, but I believe that's the case. The YCLs, there's 3 of them. There's 6 frigates, and they have a tug. They have a tug with a troop pod, meaning they have a ground assault capability. Yeah, you piss those guys off, or they go south on you, and I mean they could go take this planet or this little colony, for example. They could cause a lot of issues. So very interesting. And here's a particular thing of note that I was noting the other day. When it comes to this wormhole here goes into Klingon space, FYI. We'll talk about that in a minute. But this wormhole has 7th Fleet on it. Let's look at 7th Fleet. I looked at this and I laughed initially because I thought, oh, that's a lot of ships. 5 frigates and a cruiser. It's not crazy in the sense that it's not like that's not the kind of size of fleet that you're going to invade another person with. But depending on the technology level, you could potentially cross into Klingon space with a fleet like that and cause a lot of damage, at least right now. Assuming you weren't crippled when you came through, because if you got crippled when you came through, it's a one-way trip and you're sort of SOL. But, you know, it's just interesting to think about. I have a feeling that the Federation player, Bill, has spoken with the Tholian player, Derek, and the Tholian player is aware of how I used wormholes in the past, and I was quite aggressive with them. So I think this is just a kind of a coaching, mentoring, don't let Tony catch you with your pants down kind of thing. And that's what's going on there, I think. All right, let's move on to Big Red, or at least on this side of the map. The Tholian faction, very much looking like a, I'm not sure, it's very blobby, very blobby. But let's take away the ships real quick, and we can take a look at what we see here. Oh, interesting. Okay, so the base okay. So the base distribution it's standard for this player. You can see the capital right here in the middle, and of course 2-hex deviate or 2-hex build pattern going out. Interesting that there's no base in Mike 26, although there's no need to have one there. Concentration of a couple of interesting YDKs. One, of course, over the wormhole that leads to hydrant space. One here, which is sort of more in the direction of the northern border. Also, the one of the wormhole does service quite well the potential assault on the ISC minor faction here, which is a 3 EP planet, which it's happy plus if it gets integrated into the Tholian economy, that's going to be quite the bump. And then of course the Kzinti down here. So yeah, it looks like, I mean, if I'm the Tholian player, there's a very obvious push with bases to explore east. Obviously, a clear disregard for ISC neutral zone space and building south towards the Kzinti. And of course, we'll see here in a moment as we bring the ships back, there is a connection being made with the Gorn. Thing to note, let me just remove the ship. There is no longer, or there is now, a clear line of connection between the Gorn and the Tholians. That's a big sort of takeaway, as opposed to there being fog of war hexes in between. And what's particularly interesting about that is you can see the convoys are positioned here to build bases. The Tholians are very obviously concentrating on their infrastructure and pushing towards the Gorn. Two things to think about. If I'm the Gorn player, what does that mean? I'm not too worried about sort of the assault of fleets, but I really got to sort of hold the line, if you know what I mean, with the Tholians. Get along with them, like get a good relationship, and hold the line, because Tholians, once they're sort of on station, they're really hard to get off, or at least they can be. And especially with the Gorn at this stage in the game, both the Tholians and the Gorn have crappy ships, so it would be sort of an even fight if they did fight. So that would be sort of interesting to look at. Very interesting. But generally speaking, what do we got here? We got a great economy, great sort of spread, and the Tholians look to be growing relatively quickly. Look at the exploration on the Eastern Front. 2 cruisers with prime teams, 2 large exploration freighters, which are the best exploration ship they can get, with a prime team and an escort. So they're really pushing that exploration to the center. I would challenge folks that the exploration to the center is sort of the next big milestone in this game. Let's look at the Gorn before switching back to the chat. Let's look at the Gorn real quick. So we can see here, excuse me, we can see that the Gorn as a footprint are probably the smallest, or one of the smallest footprints in the game. They're quite dense though, in the sense that you can see like they've got this developing planet here. Again, it's very, very close to the homeworld. I'd have to check the table, but I believe that really optimizes its ability to grow. Lots of resources here right on the fringe. And there's really, there's a lot of ability here for the Gorns to kind of like pop, if that's a way to describe it. They currently are quite concentrated, relatively speaking, and as they explore what will be close to be double the amount of space that they currently have, there's a lot of ability to kind of grow. One thing I've noticed, and I'm just noticing this now, is when I look at the borders, the Gorn are kind of quite literally in a corner. They have a border with the Romulans that gives them a very small window to explore. Obviously, the Tholians are like a hard stop at the top. A glass ceiling, you might say. And so if I'm the Gorn, from an exploration perspective, I want to push east. I want to push into this window here and really sort of grab some territory. Let's bring the ships back. So we've got this commando cruiser here, not really doing much there. We've got a base under construction, which will be completed probably this turn. In Kilo 35 with the mobile fleet. Let's look at mobile fleet real quick. How big and bad is the mobile fleet? Name fleets. Mobile Fleet has a W. Oh, it's all W era ships, and they are garbage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 ships, all very weak, relatively speaking. Although the battleship, which is the WBI, does have probably a 10 command rating, so it's very good as a command ship. But it's not very offensively powerful. By comparison, for example, the Tholian ship here, the cruiser, has a 3 attack factor, which is like 1, 2, 3. I don't know. It's not. It wouldn't be a fair fight for sure, but it wouldn't. The Tholians don't have to do much to even that out. But that being said, not too worried about that. One big thing to worry about for the Gorn is the arrival of the Raider 1 fleet. So let's look quick here. Minor. Okay, Juggernaut fleets, Raider. So this is Raider 1 fleet. No way. That can't be right. No. Minor fleets. Hold on. Juggernaut home fleet? Oh, damn. Okay. So this is like Danger Will Robinson danger level crazy. Like red alert nuke. Oh my God. Okay. Let's put this into context. The Juggernaut fleet Raider 1 that is currently in Gorn space has a so the CA that you see there, that's this ship right here in the corner. The CA has a 12 attack, 12 defense factor. That is on this from a ship alone. That ship has more attack and defense factor than I think almost any Gorn fleet does. It also is a mauler. That's that little plus sign that you see there, which allows it to take 12 points of damage and concentrate it on a target with a 1-to-1 effect. That's a very powerful ship. I faced a ship like that in the last game, and it creamed. I had like a fleet of 20 ships, and I was in the M era at the time. And a fleet similar to this decimated my fleet of 20 ships. I had to send another fleet after it. Very bad. The light cruiser is a straight 8 ship, so that's better than any ship that he has alone. The destroyers, of which there are 2, are a straight 6 ship, again, better than any ship that he has. And the frigates, which have a 5-5, there's 3 of them. Yeah, overall, this is a nightmare situation for the Gorn, just in the sense that the amount of the amount of ships that they have there is just wow. Well, I'll be very interested to see what happens here. Juggernaut headaches for everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my God, because yeah, this fleet is going to be a game ender, at least for as long as because it only moves 1 hex at a time, so you can manage it to a degree, but it's going to cause some serious damage, and I don't see a way that the Gorn can necessarily stop them, and I don't see anybody who could help them, which is the big thing. I don't see, like, let's say the Romulans wanted to help them out. There's no way the Romulans can get a powerful enough fleet to them and into their space to be able to deal with those Juggernauts, and or if the Tholians wanted to help too. Like that's going to be really, really, really bad. It's just a matter of how that's going to play out. Woo. Okay. So in the spirit of being in shock, let's take a quick look at the chat. Wow, that's crazy. Okay. Let's take a look. Jim. Usually travel at 1 hex a turn until you get speed 5, in which case they move 2 hexes per turn. Daniel Eastland. Phrasing. He says phrasing for what? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the... Oh, okay. Hold on. Maybe this is regards to the commercial convoy. I'm not sure. Phrasing, he says. Mr. GM. 3 hexes splits for growth, so that planet at range 4 from that capital is just outside the sweet spot. Fair. Garbage. Nice and honest from the Klingon tyrant, he says. I am honest. Decimation time for the Gorns. Bill Smith, 45 attack, 45 defense. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And it's a mauler. Like, oh, Jesus. It's just a nightmare. My group is going in with about 39 attack. My defense is 52. I have help, he says. Okay, well, it's going to be interesting. Listen to the voice of experience, Bill. This Juggernaut fleet is badass. Jim, oh my God, is right. Ouchies. Robert Martin, can't other empires send episodes to support maybe for the Gorn? EPs, he says, to the Gorn. Yes, we could. It'll take 2 turns to get there, 1 turn to send them and sort of transit from the Orions, and we'd have to pay double. For example, if we were to send 5 EP to the Gorn, we would have to actually spend 10 EP. 5 of it goes to the Orions to shuttle that there. On the turn that we send it, he'll receive it, I believe it's the next turn. It takes 2 turns to get there. So we'd have to see how that goes. It's, yeah, we can send them EP, but at the end of the day, they can't build ships powerful enough to stop them. Like, I can send you all the EP you want, but you're limited on how many ships you can build and how powerful those ships are. So there's only so much you can do, which is incredibly frustrating if I'm the Gorn player. George, sympathies for the Gorn player. Jim's laughing maniacally. All right. Let me switch my head to the other side as we move to the Romulan player, and as we creep towards the Klingons. Okay, so first of all, let's address this little guy. Don't worry about this little guy. That is a Riemann ship that came through a wormhole, I believe it was Sierra down here, and is slowly creeping its way up to Gorn space, which is maybe the closest friendly faction other than the Romulans. The Romulans, as we talked about before, they're so very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. So the Romulans are obviously aggressively exploring to the south. Look at all these 19th, 16th, Imperial, Rolands. All these ships and these fleets are basically cruisers with prime teams, essentially. And they're pushing south. Very interesting. Very interesting. He says. So anyway, exploration in the south. And as we can see here, we had a monster up here, which I believe if I take away the ships. So it didn't actually pop. I don't believe it popped any bases. There might have been a base in Tango 47 that it destroyed. I believe there might have been. But it would seem as though, based on ships, we can see that there is a crippled ship here, YSN, and 4th Legion, Romulan 4th Legion. What's in 4th Legion? Anything significant? No, 1 warbird. Okay, so we looked at the number of ships for the Romulans, and very similar to some of these other factions, below 100 attack factor and a relatively low number of ships. I believe it was 39. Let me just do a quick recap. Romulans, 38. So they have 38 ships and below 100 attack factor. So you can see that the concentration of their ships is very clear. They're concentrating those ships in the south for exploration. They got a couple of sort of military focal points. So, for example, let's look at the border here with the Klingons. You can see here that there's 2nd Legion, Romulan 2nd Legion, probably the biggest concentration of ships right there. They've got 3 cruisers and a Kingbird. So the King is a command cruiser, which is a total attack factor of 16. And then they've got 10th Legion up here doing some, what's in 10th Legion? I bet you it's just another one of those, 10. So yeah, so it's a cruiser with an escort and a prime team. So they're just doing exploration. Makes total sense. The FB is their their tug. So that this FB will probably be building bases to facilitate exploration and so on. Again, taking away the ships for a second, you can see there's this void of supply, and they need to build the bases to be able to push the exploration to the north and northeast. Whereas they are sort of at the edge of their... Oh, that's an interesting thing to note. Okay, so the Romulans, for example, are at supply 3. You can tell that because... 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So this convoy here is providing extended supply to the ships in this region. All these fleets, or at least Imperial and 16th, are at the edge of supply for supply 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Rolandus fleet is within the supply range, extended supply range for the convoy and all these guys. So there's going to be a point here shortly where they're going to stall out because they need to build bases, which is probably why this W-era frigate, or sorry, tug, I keep saying frigate, this W-era tug right here is probably going to build a base here to extend supply further south and so on. Yeah, I expect that's probably going to be the case as they move south. That's the biggest challenge in this game is supply. It is one of the biggest challenges is supply and being able to facilitate that stuff. Now let's look on the border here with the Romulans and the Gorn. You can see here that there's a couple things. One, of course, the Gorn took this planet from the Borak, which was a minor faction that was here, and they've fully integrated or converted the base that was here in this Hex Papa 43. That was formerly a Romulan base. As part of the peace treaty, it was handed over, and so they now have access to it. So that's good in the sense that from like a logistics perspective, they've got good supply and reach, and they can explore a lot of this sort of fogged out space. Juggernauts not taking into account the Juggernauts, but generally speaking, it looks as though the priority for the Romulans right now is exploration. Their biggest constraint is supply, and they're trying to deal with both of those things at the same time. One thing, as I'm passing the 6 o'clock point on the map, one thing to really think about in this game, based on what we're experiencing, is the Juggernaut faction. What are you going to do? What are you going to do with Juggernauts? As a player, I mean to say, in the sense of like, so let's just swap out here for a sec. Quick discussion and dialogue with you. What do you do when a Juggernaut faction can pop into your space and that faction can end you? How do you manage that risk? The chances of it happening are relatively low, but when it does happen, it can be sort of game ending. If that Raider fleet had shown up in Klingon space, that would have been a huge pain in the butt. I mean, I could find a way to deal with it, but it would cripple me. And I'm one of the bigger factions in the game. I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with the Gorn and how that scenario resolves itself. But what would happen if you're in the middle of a war, as the Hydrans and the IC are, and you have a Juggernaut faction show up in your backyard or like somewhere behind the lines? How are you going to deal with that? Or if you're like a faction if you're a faction like the Remans, you just drop the hammer. You might lose some ships in the process, but you'll get it done. But anybody else really is really sort of stuck, right? So very interesting to think about. I think one of the key things here in this game is our intent for players and just the campaign in general is we're here to have fun. We're not here to ruin anybody's game. And so I have faith that our game master, who this aspect of the gameplay is behind the curtain, sort of Wizard of Oz style, right? So we don't know all the mechanics on how the Juggernauts are happening and how that faction's working. However, he's not unfair, and the intent of this is not to create unfair situations for everybody. But at the same time, if you're not sort of preparing for some bad things, when those bad things happen, they can cause you great pain. They won't necessarily end you, but they will cause you great pain. And we've seen that happen. I had that happen to me in the last game. Had the Juggernauts not repeatedly shown up and caused me issues, then I would have done different things in that game. So, I see Daniel's poking in here. Let me jump in the chat. Okay. The laugh was in something you said earlier, not maniacal, to the Gorn situation, which has my commiserations. Now, Tony, that's the look of a concerned Klingon tyrant, he says. Yes, it is. Challenge and attack. Robert, can you lead them away from important worlds? Good question. Not sure. Again, behind the curtain kind of stuff, right? How can you entice them to come towards you? I don't know the answer to that question. We'll have to find out. Eugene. So commercial convoys are slower than Christmas. True. Only come every few years. Not something you can count on, or something that you can set up with a partner. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, he says, Daniel. So Eugene, basically that's correct. Long story short, there is a trade system that we've established in this game. My assessment, and that's sort of something that we're gonna explore and discuss and find out more about how we're going to provide better value for players in that going forward, is that it's not a good ROI. Like it takes a lot of labor it takes a lot of conscious effort to deal with, and you're providing, for example, you'll create a convoy, you'll send it to your partner, and they receive the benefit. There's no, it's not a good system, long story short. Basically, you create it, you send it, the recipient receives the benefit. You rely on them to create their own and send it to you, and you go back and forth. And I don't feel that that's a good system. There's probably an easier way to do it and have it provide better benefit, or like be more advantageous in the game. So we'll have to work that piece out. But for the purposes of this campaign in this game, that's how it is. Usually they are reciprocal, and at speed 2 will exchange every other turn if both empires play. Homeworld has a new YDN plus and a YDD and 2FF plus higher and reaction plus patrol ships. Bill, all I say is be careful about your ships. Don't put them in a situation where you're going to lose them. Be really careful. Don't necessarily challenge the juggernauts to a fight. Let them come to you, and you set the terms of the engagement. The only time you're going to want to fight them, like aggressively engage them, is if you know that you can cause them enough crippling damage to cause them to retreat. And that's going to be difficult to do. So just make sure, based on the ships that you have, that you're controlling that in such a way that, just make sure you're managing that properly. Because if you take a wrong step there, you're going to really screw yourself, potentially. Robert, put a few ships adjacent to them. Hope they go for them, and then doing so. Oh my God, I can't read. Hope they go for them. Keep doing that until Juggernaut fleet is away from your planets. Just throwing it out there. Possibly. You can experiment and see what they'll go for. See how that works. That's what I'm trying to do with the space lens in Hydron Space. Speaking of which, we'll get to that. Too late, Tony. He's already challenged them in the story narrative. True. Daniel, in the words of Klingon Admiral Cumerian, never fight a battle you do not have to win. All right. There we go. Okay. So with that said, let's dive into the Klingon map. All right. Now, the whole thing about the thumbnail was talking about the strange new worlds that we were discovering. What would happen if there was a Kirk version in the Klingon Empire? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly what we are doing in the Klingon Empire. Yes, we have, for years, spent our time warring against our neighbors from left to right. We have engaged in a fight for our survival. But here, now, with you, we are embarking on a new vision of exploration and infrastructure investment that will bring a new era of science, discovery, and exploration for us all. Don't you think that is worthwhile? Terrible. All right, so yeah, here we are. That's what we're doing. That's the 5-year plan. In the classic example of failed Soviet infrastructure plans, we are going to engage in a 5-year plan. 5-year plan is all about building infrastructure, trying to rebuild a robust network of defenses, and provide supply to facilitate exploration. First step on that was to be able to build a new exploration cruiser. We had some casualties, shall we say, in our exploration fleet. So the survey fleet suffered some losses when it came to the light or the small exploration freighters and our exploration cruisers. So last turn, in turn 56, this is the turn 57 map, we built a new exploration cruiser. That cruiser is now, and had moved up to this planet here, and that is now moving up to here in supply or provided supply by this planet here. 1, 2, 3. And so it's going to continue to operate in this area. We have the D3, which, the D3 Echo, which is the W era exploration freighter that has survived this entire time. So interesting. And so anyways, it was moving, and it discovered a strange new world of Paravians, referred to as, is there a name for these guys? Let's remove the V. It makes me think of the 80s TV show with the lizards, and they like pulled their skin back, and oh yeah, okay, so V. So we've got the V with Falcon Fleet here, and so what do they got? We discovered this planet. What's interesting about the location of this planet, let's just pull away the ships for a second, right next to my 2 YDKs. Awesome. You couldn't have asked for a better like position. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Come back anytime. We're just looking at the planet. It's a developing planet, so it's a 2 EP. There's not a lot of advantage to trying to approach it diplomatically. However, sort of to help us along that decision, it is currently unfriendly. We showed up in their space exploring, and they took a very hostile approach to us. Now, they didn't shoot us out of the water just yet, but they have clearly indicated in communications, get the bug out of our territory. So, they have a planetary Grambus and a YBS, and they have Falcon Fleet. So let's take a look at the Paravian fleets and look at Falcon. Not the Winter Soldier, just Falcon. So let's put that over here. We got a YCA, 2 YDDs, and 4 YFFs. You know what this makes me think of? This makes me think this is a time for time to make things happen. Time to move in a direction that is good. Oh, there's a diplomat over there. We'll have to go back over there in a second. This is looking good, and I'm feeling good about how this is going to go. Let's just say that this is an opportunity for us to explore the 3 different strategies that you have seen displayed over the course of this campaign. The first is the Alpha. These are all making reference to, by the way, the characters that I have developed within the context of this game. Again, the Klingon Empire is taking its inspiration from the Alpha Legion of Warhammer 40K, the Alpha Legion being the Horus Heresy, the pre-Horus Heresy iteration of the Alpha Legion. The Alpha Legion having 2, what they refer to as Primarchs, or like leaders, that are twins, and that they are sort of carbon copies of each other, although slightly different iterations because or slightly different flavors, but effectively they're indistinguishable from each other. And that's the whole thing about the Alpha Legion, is that everybody is Alpharius. Even though there is an Alpharius, which is one, and Omicron, which is the other. They're 2 twins. 1 soul, 2 bodies is the thing there. So in the context and the history of this game, for the Klingon Empire, we have 3 of these characters, 3 heads of a Hydra. So there is the Alpha, and that is the figurehead, the leader, the presented leadership of the Klingon Empire. Now, the Alpha strategy is straightforward. Like an Alpha strike, you are hitting everybody with all your military assets at once. Move fast, hit hard, move on. That's the basic strategy here. It's about speed of execution to be able to, in the context of this, inflate your economy for a period of time, quickly conquer the target, and then move towards sort of integrating them into your economy and recovering that planet at some point in time. Right? Fair? The second was the Omicron, again, a play on Omicron from Warhammer. The Omicron strategy, which is much more sort of diplomatic and underhanded and deceptive, and it's about using words as weapons as opposed to your fists and firearms. So in this context, the second strategy we saw deployed was a diplomatic one, where we use our diplomatic teams and subterfuge and secrets, prime team missions and things like that to be able to execute and infiltrate targets and cause change or effect. And the third was the Gamma. And the Gamma is an interesting iteration because it's different from anything in the Warhammer context, and it's completely sort of my own flavor and interpretation here. The Gamma is the third wheel. The gamma is the, I don't want to say the leftovers or the bad child or something, but there's a specific sort of direction I'm going to go with gamma. But suffice it to say, the gamma strategy is one of full transparency and openness. There's no subterfuge with the gamma. He will be openly honest and 100% transparent with you with everything that he's doing. He'll just do it. There's no deception there. There's total transparency and honesty. However, he just does what he says he's going to do. And it's kind of a weird reaction against the Omicron strategy and embracing of the alpha in a weird combination, so that there's no hiding. He telegraphs what he does. He openly describes to you how we're going to move forward and what the expectations are and things like that. It's very strange. At the same time, there's a component that's going on in the back end from the role-playing perspective, and I apologize, I haven't been as detailed in my role-playing stuff lately. But there's an element playing out in the back end for the role-playing that's going to drive that character in a specific direction and result in a certain outcome. When that happens will depend on in-game events and sort of how things play out. But it's going to, I've already sort of trickled some of it in the context, and I think you might be able to figure it out. The long story short is, like, 3 heads of a Hydra, Hydra being the iconic figure or symbol for the Alpha Legion. In this case, 3 heads of the Hydra. There are 3 of these Primarch-style leaders, and they're all interchangeable. However, depending on where they are located in the Empire, they will be influencing or executing their strategy in a different way. And you'll be able to tell who you're dealing with based on sort of the interaction with the Alpha and what you're experiencing. So anyways, with that said, Falcon Fleet, looking forward to it. It's going to be good. All right. So what do we got here? We can see on the border with the Romulans, we've got a couple of tugs. You can see one tug is in the midst of building a base. There's another tug here. And, oh, look, there's a convoy here. Can you tell what I'm going to be doing? There's going to be some base building, 1, 2, 3, to be able to facilitate supply and, of course, create exactly what we talked about. There is a captured base here, which will be converted into a Klingon base shortly, and so on and so forth. So we've got a progression here as we move forward. The idea is to be able to create specifically probably here in Echo 46 a trade network of sending 1, 2, 3, 4 commercial convoys to and from this YDK in Bravo 45, so we can get some trade going back and forth. That is the plan. We'll see how that goes. Additionally, let's just take a look down here. We've got this planet. Diplomatic efforts are continuing. It's friendly now. That's good. We want to get it to Happy Plus because it is a minor planet. Once it gets to Happy Plus and it's not devastated anymore, it'll be good. Speaking of which, let's take away the bases real quick. We can see that it was conquered in 91 fall, and I could look at the turn sheet to see exactly where we are as far as the years and the turn number don't match. Obviously, this is turn 57. How does that relate to the year? I'd have to double check on my spreadsheet, but we're getting closer to the point where it's going to recover. And actually, that reminds me, I'm going to have to go over all my different planets shortly and just make sure and track and verify that we're all on track for that sort of recovery bit. And that's pretty much it. We can see along the border with the, as we move into the Carnarvon sphere of influence, we can see that Wolfpack is continuing building their YBS. They've got a diplomat here, and they are continually trying to improve the attitude with the Borak. That seems to be going the wrong way because they are unhappy. Now, if they are unhappy, and then the next one is hostile, and then they will basically be at war with the Carnarvon. If that were to happen, that would be interesting because this planet actually has quite a decent military. So Borak. Takesis fleet is pretty decent. It's got 2 frigates, a destroyer, CL, CA, and a YDN. Yeah, it's and it's got a YDK with 3 ground bases. It's not an easy target. Granted, the Carnarvon have enough ships they can do something about it, but yeah, it's not an easy target. And so, yeah, we'll see how that develops. We saw in the fleet cap that the Carnivon have one of the bigger fleets. And so let's just take a look. We've got a couple things that have happened. One, this Borak faction in the bottom corner has been taken in turn 98 Spring. So assuming it was taken last turn, which was turn 56, turn 56 is 98 Spring. It is now 98 Fall. Turn 57 will be 98 Fall. Just looking back here, 98 Fall, which means that, yeah, we're about 1, 2, 3. We're not too far away from this planet becoming undevastated. Right, so Coyote Carnivon. So we have Coyote Band. So Coyote Band 1 has a drone bombardment ship, a destroyer basically, a frigate, and a cruiser that are just lingering behind there to keep everything kosher. You've got a crippled frigate there. You've got the Carnivon home fleet. Whoa, look at that. Not small. 3 cruisers, 3 drone bombardment ships, 2 destroyers, and 3 frigates, and 2 crippled frigates. Heading back to the homeworld, it's probably going to split between this YDK and the homeworld for repair. On the homeworld, we've got 2 W-era DNs, which is interesting. I wonder if they're upgradable. Terry, you're going to have to tell us if they're upgradable. I'll be very interested to know. And then, of course, as we take away the ships for a sec, we can see from a base perspective, the Carnivons are building some more robust YDK options. They got a YDK on the border with me, YDK here, YDK there. They're building more YDKs, which is very interesting. You can see the base distribution is, I don't want to say robust, but I mean, it's better than it was. They're building this one right next to and on the border with me, and right next to the Borak faction here, which is going to be interesting to see how that sort of evolves. We can see, based on sort of their current rate of supply, we've got a tug here, probably going to build a base either there with a convoy or here with the tug, and extending supply for this exploration freighter, and it's moving itself northeasterly, working its way that way. We have First Reserve Fleet, which is probably just an exploration fleet. Fox Fleet. I'll be interested to see what's going on with Fox. Fox. Whoa. Okay. So Fox Fleet, right here, has 3 frigates, a drone bombardment ship, a commando cruiser. I don't know what a CB is. Maybe a battle cruiser, and a couple CAs. Yeah, it must be a battle cruiser. I'm not sure. Anyways, YCBs, which look like they're less defense but better attack. Interesting. A couple of YCAs and a YCC. So there's an interesting group of ships here that are basically guarding that wormhole, and it'll be interesting to see when that wormhole K. Where is the K wormhole? Is that over here in Lyran space? Yeah, that's the Lyran one. Okay. So I understand why they have those ships there. It'll be interesting to see when and if they build a base on it and what they're going to do about it. Additionally, we have a convoy, interestingly. Oh, okay. So we have a Lyran ship with a... What? So this is interesting. So there's a couple things in game that are occurring. The Hydrons and the Carnivon have, let me just switch here. The Carnivons and the Hydrons have gone into an alliance. And there are rules about alliances in the game. And fundamentally what that means is, from an initiative perspective, their economies are counted together. And there is an ability for them to easily use each other's sort of supply networks. You still have to pay, I believe, and there was some debate about this. Once you're in an alliance, I thought you could use your alliance members' supplies if it was yours, but then we talked about homeless ships and that you need to pay to support homeless ships as well. So Daniel, can you, in the chat, can you clarify that for me? I just want to make sure I got that right as far as what we're using in the game, whether you still have to pay support for those ships or whether they can seamlessly use your supply. You let me know. So either way, we can see on that map that there's a number of Carnivon ships heading into Hydron space. So very interesting. Why? Why are they going in there? Because it's not like a massive fleet is heading into Hydron space. Why are this trickle of ships heading into Hydron space? I wonder. Especially with things like there's a convoy heading into Hydron space. I don't understand why. Why would you send a convoy, which is slow moving, versus something that can move quickly like a tug? So Daniel says, expeditionary fleets up to 12 ships can be paid by an ally to be in supply. So here's the question. The rules state that it can be up to 24 ships. Is it a tech thing for us that it's only 12 at this point, or is it a sort of a homebrew rule when it comes to 12 ships? 2, homeless ships up to 24. No, not 12 from a single empire can be supported. Right. Yeah. So 24 ships for homeless expeditionary fleets can be paid by an ally to be in supply. So I guess in our case, it'll be 24 ships is the maximum. But in this context, when it comes to allies, is there anything in the ally rules that allow them? You can build bases inside ally space to allow your own supply lines. Okay, so basically we're using it that allies, it's not war when you cross a border with an ally. You can build bases in their territory to provide your own supply. Otherwise, they have to supply you as if you were a homeless ship. Got it. And so it seems as though that may be what's happening here, in that you've got a colony, 1, 2, 3 supply to, hold on, let me show you what I'm looking at. You've got this colony here, which is providing 1, 2, 3 supply to where this convoy is, and maybe they're going to build a base, and they're going to create a supply network towards the border with the ISC. Maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. Speaking of the ISC, bada bing, bada boom, bada bang. Let's see what's going on the border. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the fun, exciting part of the show. This is the heated out, big time heavyweight fight between the yellow corner. It is the ISC with the bigger ships and the badder bodies, and they're going to beat the Hydrons down. In the green corner, we've got the Hydrons that are nimble, they're slick, they're slippery, and they're tentacled, ready to come at you at various directions. So let's see how this goes forward. If you are liking what we're doing right now, then please, I'm noticing there are 4 likes on this video, and there are at least 11 of you watching. If everyone could just please take a moment and go and hit that like button, that'd be great. Appreciate it so much. And let's get into the fight. Ding, ding. All right. Let's dive in to the, let's start with the sort of the underdog in this case, which is the ISC, skipping over the Hydrons ever so slightly, because I've heard that there was a big battle that was going on. So let's take away the ships and look at the border. Now, we had known before that there were a number of bases in Whiskey 19, X-Ray 19, and Zulu 19. And over time, it seems as though the Hydrons have effectively destroyed all those bases. That's not good. You can also see, now the Hydrons have been using this YDK here as their sort of focal point as a vector to attack, but you can see that they're building another base here. Interesting that they're choosing to do that now. And they're building this base here, and yeah, maybe, I'm not sure what they're going to do with that, but needless to say, it's a good spot to defend that border. From the ISC perspective, you can see that there are 2 YDKs that have been upgraded. Now, those are important because they were previously supporting the base that was in Whiskey 19, which is now gone. But they're also great repair points for the fleets that are attacking and, of course, sustaining damage against the Hydrons. As we bring the ships back, what can we see here? We can see that, of course, there's a tug, which is at the YDK. And there is, of course, I love the ISC fleets because they're all in these named echelons. So we've got provider, provider and enforcer. So, or sorry, Providence, my mistake, and enforcement fleets. I will move this out of the way so you can see that. We'll put it here. Yeah, we'll put that there since there's nothing in truth. Okay, so we've got Providence and Enforcement. So Providence is the one right above my head, and it's got a YDN, which is a 7-9 ship, best along with the Romulans, the best YDN in the game. 2 CAs, a boatload, 5 YCLs, a commando cruiser, 2 destroyers, and a frigate. So that's not, that's decent. We also have Providence. Sorry, that was Providence, and then Enforcement is a command cruiser with another 6 light cruisers, 3 destroyers, my mistake, and a prime team. So that's what they've got there. Now, what's interesting about the location of that fleet, it looks like they may be trying to explore or uncover these fog of war hexes. If that's the case, that'll be interesting. As it is right now, this base is under this base. Sorry, I'm going back and forth here. So let's finish with the ISC. So we've got this sort of pillar of strength, I'll call it, right here, which is sort of around this YDK. If we go north, we've got a YDK with a bunch of frigates, and then over on this side, it looks as though a YBS is being built. Yeah, being built and will be completed the same time as this other YBS that the Hydrons are building. And it has Order Fleet. Now, Order Fleet is the other big fleet above here, which has one YCC, a YCC and a prime team, a YCA and a prime team, a YCL, a commando cruiser, 3 destroyers, and a frigate. And it looks as though there may have been a battle in and around this area for, for one of these ships. We've got Home and Royal Fleet from the Hydron side. This makes a little bit more sense now as I look at this. So let's look at Home Fleet. We'll put this over in the corner here. And what else we got? We got Royal. Royal. Call it a royal flush. Ha ha, he says. Okay. Okay, so we've got boom, new donation coffee from the Pharaoh of Hydrax. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Jim, for your donation. I'm out of coffee right now. Let me take a sip of water, H2O. If I was a Hydron, that'd be liquid methane. Merci beaucoup. All right, Royal Fleet is got a YDN, just one? Just one, because, the Hydrons have more than one. A YCC with a prime team and a couple Vols. And as well, the other fleet, which is Home Fleet, has a DN. So 2 DNs on station, 2 YCCs, so 3 YCCs on station, and then, 12 Vols. Man, those Vols are crazy. Okay, so 15 Vols, 3 YCCs, and 2 DNs. That's not nothing. And that's right here. So what's interesting about that, okay, so you've got a tug and 2 Vols that are in this hex below. Here's the question. It strikes me that you're going to, if I'm the Hydrons, that you're going to build a base in, what is this, Triple Zulu? No, Zulu 20. So Zulu 20 is going to get a base. The Home Fleet there is to protect it while they build the base. Totally makes sense. And why are you building that base? So you can reach up and start taking this sector of space. You're going to try and take these resources and cut him off from this area. Makes total sense. Interesting. So that's what's going on here. And that explains why you're building the base here. And then, of course, you're going to build a base there. And it's going to be this sort of creeping, crawling move to sort of take that territory. As it stands right now, and I'd have to look at the total numbers of the ships, but just based on what I can observe from the distribution, it would seem as though that the Hydrons are playing sort of offense by defense game, meaning they're going to creep forward, hold their position, build out their infrastructure, creep forward, hold their position, build their infrastructure, and so on. Whereas the ISC are sort of pot-shotting them as they come. The what's in Judge Fleet? Judge. Okay, that's just a YCL. So by contrast, the ISC, like I say, are doing this pot shot thing. Interesting. So the big battle that may have occurred in turn 56 coming into this now, the 57 map, is a battle around the base that was probably in this hex right here, Zulu 19, and that base. Or maybe it was in Zulu 18, I'm not sure. But the bases in this area were basically providing supply to and expanding this area. It would seem as though the Hydrons are looking to take and creep their way into taking that territory. Fair enough. And the question I have for the Hydron player, if that is your goal and that's where you're going, Jim, it looks as though you're going to do that fairly effectively based on the ships and the distribution I can see. In one turn, I can't see the ISC moving ships in a way that would significantly oppose your ability to do that. If I'm the ISC, I don't want to fight you there. I want to fight you somewhere else. And maybe that's what's going on here with Providence Fleet and trying to open up this Uniform 21 Fog of War hex and then come at you from another angle. If that's the case, we'll see. However, if that is what they're doing, the Hydrons have this bulwark right here, this new fleet and expeditionary fleet. All right, so Hydron, new fleet. Okay, we'll put this guy over here. And then Hydron expeditionary fleet. There we are. Boom. Okay, so if I'm the Hydrons, this is what I got, as well as 2 vols and a YCC. So it would seem as though in new fleet there's a DN, so YDN, and 4 vols. There's another 4 vols and a GRN in the other fleet. So not a massive fleet by any means, but you've got also a YCL and 2 vols. So 2, 4, and 3. So you got 9 frigates, 1 command cruiser, 1 cruiser, and a DN. 10 frigates. 10 frigates, 2 cruisers, one of them being a command cruiser and a DN. Enough, certainly, to be able to hold the line on this base, on this YDK, and keep that from, anything bad happening. Also, you got First Fleet, which is not too far away, which has not too much in it. It's got 2 GRNs, so 2 cruisers, and a vol and a crippled vol. That crippled vol is going to get repaired from that YBS. But yeah, it looks as though you're spending, if I'm the Hydrons are spending the majority of their resources to be able to cut that corner and cause pain, shall we say, to the ISC. The ISC, by contrast, are doing a good job of building infrastructure to hold their own. The Hydrons are being very successful in their strategy because they're doing this creeping thing going forward. If I'm the ISC, my biggest focal point is to cause them damage. I want to cause casualties. Doesn't mean that you destroy the ships, although that's great if you do, but you want to cripple them as much as possible, do as much crippling damage to the Hydron player as possible while you're max building and producing your best ships. In every fight, assuming it's not at a base, as the ISC, I will, if I'm the ISC, pound for pound outpunch the Hydrons. The Hydrons use their vols to be able to soak up damage. So the objective would be to overwhelm their repair capacity to such a degree that they cannot repair the vols that they have, all the vols that they have damaged. That's going to be very difficult because they are continuing to build out their infrastructure, the Hydrons that is, to be able to do exactly that. So you got to apply pressure to the Hydrons, and at the same time, you have to come in a different vector. Like you have to find a different avenue of attack. The hitting them where they're building their bases, it might work, but there's got to be a way. You got to fight in the way that you're going to, for example, maybe pin fleets. Like if you were trying to attack this tug and all that business, you pin Home Fleet and Royal Fleet if you can, and then attack the tug with the vols. And then when you go into that fight, you do everything you can to attack and destroy that target, the base that's under construction and or the tug. That's all you care about. Kill the tug ASAP, move on from there. We'll see how that goes. But generally speaking, I mean, I'm loving the war. I'm loving the fact that there's this like back and forth and combat. The only thing about it is based on territory taken, it looks as though the Hydrons are kind of eking out a victory. However, when we look at the numbers of ships and fleets and all that business, the ISC are coming back strong. Remember, they started off this fight with a deficit. They had fewer ships and lower attack factors than the Hydrons. As this battle, or as this war is going forward, The Hydrons are losing that advantage. They now have more ships, but fewer attack factors. The difference between the number of ships is also relatively decreasing. The ISC have decreased the relative difference of ships, and the ships that they're building are bigger, badder, stronger, better. So as this moves forward, it may take a while, but I foresee, assuming nothing drastic changes, I see an ISC, shall we say, a changing of the tide. Right now, the tide is on the ebb, certainly. Like it's going out. They are losing ground to the Hydrons. I could see that turning, and there being a flood of ISC victories in the next 4 to 5 turns, depending on how this plays out. The determining factor will be the pillars of strength. I refer to them as pillars of strength in the sense of who has them, where are they, and how hard a target are they. Those are bases, points of, for example, YDKs and places where you can do repairs. Eliminate those points of repair, and you will very quickly see a shift in this battle or this war. As it stands right now, the ISC have the advantage on that, but not by much, and the Hydrons are creeping forward. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting back and forth. Let me jump into the who are you going to call? Let's jump into the chat real quick here. Eugene says, why hasn't anyone paid the pirates to pop the base in Romeo 26 to again isolate those resources on the west and pay them to pop any tugs or convoys that attempt to reconnect, thus drawing them off? Okay, so let's take a look at that map real quick. So what was it? Zulu or Romeo 26. Let me open up the map again. So Romeo 26 is right here, what he's talking about. And if you were to pop this base, again, that is a point of weakness. You can see that the Hydrons, that is, have placed a fleet there. Well, not a big fleet. They've got a W or a tug and 2 vols. Now, that is enough to prevent the Orions from being able to substantially destroy that base. They can't destroy it in one shot because based on the Orion rules that we have, let me come back here. Based on the Orion rules that we have, there is a limit to how many ships can enter one hex to do damage. What we were experiencing was a overpowered scenario with how Orions could and would and were being used, and basically it put we'll say targets in a huge disadvantage scenario where you could have multiple players ganging up on and doing disproportionate amounts of damage relative to what they could actually do. So a Hydron. So long story short, you can have 2 ships maximum target a location. There is a limit on the kinds of ships that you can hire, and of course they have attack and defense factors like capabilities. The challenge is that at the moment, and this is at the moment because tech changes things, at the moment, the ships you can hire from the Orions can't overpower a YBS with two vols. They can cripple it, maybe. They can certainly damage the vols, but they won't necessarily be able to destroy the base. And considering the amount of money that you'd have to pay out to hire those ships to do that, I don't know that the ROI is there. Especially considering that for example, in the IC's position, the ships they build are killer. So why spend the money on that? So, something to think about. Eugene, combat supply and ships away from the north. Combat supply and ships away from the north, he says. Oh, yeah, drawing them off. Yeah, totally. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Paul says, a monster attacked me, and that's fair. We've got a monster attacking Jim right now. We'll talk about that in a second. Bill, they have, what is this? They have once this is the rebuild, Jim. Now, what? Okay, so he's mentioning, Bill saying that, so we have patrol fleets. Patrol fleets are a number of ships. The number is determined by your economy divided by 10 that you can put into what's called patrol. And when an event or an attack occurs within your territory, there's a d6 that's rolled. And if you have, I believe that the number is, if you have as many as 6 ships, you roll a 6, the patrol will respond. But it's determined based on the number of ships you have in the patrol. I just vaporized a base. Jim says, I just vaporized the base in Zulu 19, which is where the home fleet. Here, we'll go back there real quick. That's where home fleet and royal fleet are. He popped a base in that hex. So that makes total sense. This is exactly why when you build bases, you build them 2 hexes away so that ships that are close can respond and do stuff. So let's see. It was isolated. Totally get it. Eugene. Okay, so it is more than the one ship at the base that is protecting those resources. Yes. Bill, look at the wormhole in Triple Charlie 20. Yeah, saw that. Then look at the Juggernauts, where the Juggernauts came out. Triple Charlie 30, or 20 rather, and then look where the Juggernauts came out. Are you talking about the Juggernauts in... Bill, are you referring to the Juggernauts that you were dealing with? Yeah, because it's close, but I mean, it's not the same. So I don't know. You tell me. In my space, that is, yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah, hold on. Let's take a quick look at that ever so quickly. So is it the same hex? Oh, interesting. So what Bill's referring to here, my dog is making all sorts of funny noises. What Bill is referring to here is that this is also the same hex. Oh, this is interesting. There's a wormhole here in this same hex that goes to, it's a wormhole that goes to this wormhole right here on the very edge of your screen. Now, let me drag this in so you can see it. So this hex right here is where, is a wormhole that is in the same hex as to where the Juggernauts came out in Bill's space, right above my head here. So I don't know that there's a correlation or like a causation relationship there, but it's interesting. What would be even more interesting is if the Juggernauts went through that wormhole. Wouldn't that be interesting? I don't know. It'd be kind of cool. It'd be a bad, I mean, it would just cause problems for both the Hydrons and the ISC, but it would be interesting if that sort of like got introduced to the area of operations, shall we say. Be interesting. Okay. What do we got? Okay, Jim, laugh out loud. Who are you going to call? Dell, haha, can't really say Ream Busters. Not exactly. Eugene, I didn't see the second vol initially. That must be new this round. Jim says, in Gorn space, I think, yes, a wormhole is labeled A as in alpha. He's linking wormhole use and Juggernaut appearance. Nope, it's back end of Hydron space. Jim, wrong wormhole. Tony. Yeah. Okay. So, sorry, I was, there we are. So, yeah, so what Jim is referring to there when it comes to the relationship with wormhole use is there would seem to be a direct, and this is sort of like we're inferring it based on what we're seeing as far as habits and patterns. There are players who are sending ships through wormholes. Every time wormhole or ships transit the wormholes, the Juggernauts respond, or there is a role-playing element that causes the Juggernauts to respond, and then the Juggernaut appearances are very delayed, but seem to appear in areas of space where folks are transiting wormholes. I'm going to guess, I don't know this off the top of my head, but I'm going to guess it's from the entrance point. So when you travel a wormhole, if you went through the wormhole, the Juggernauts are identifying where that wormhole came from and are sending Juggernauts in that area. That would be an interesting, if that's what's happening, that would be interesting because that would be a way to sort of protect yourself from it. Don't send ships through wormholes. Yeah, that would be an interesting little nugget. Interesting. So we'll have to see. So, wrong wormhole, Tony. Oops, no, I'm wrong. A is in ISC space. Yes, I thought it was Q. I think Daniel mislabeled. ISC alpha is an innie. Well, it changed to a full-fledged wormhole. That was one of the big things. And that was a couple turns ago. Yeah, that was. I was going about, Jim, have fun to go visit and pound you. Usually you get a capital as the finding one and a lowercase. Yes, you're right. Capital is the finding one. Yeah, so yeah. It might have been mislabeled as far as the capital letter versus the smaller letter. I'm not sure. Or maybe what happened was he changed the wormhole when he changed it to the gravity well. Maybe it changed the capital, the letter on the wormhole. I'm not sure, but maybe you're right. Maybe it's just mislabeled. Okay. So with that said, let's jump into the big playa. If I was a Les Grossman, this is the Les Grossman of the map. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Big Red, the Remans. Bum, bum, bum. Now, a couple of things that are interesting about the Reman map. I'm going to just highlight it right now, and I'm going to make a big round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's give the Remans a big round of applause for building their first dreadnought. Ladies and gentlemen, the KC-4. Woohoo! Yeah! It's a 6.8 dreadnought, baby, and they built it. Beating the Klingons to the dreadnought party. Wow, woo! There we are. Kicking butt and taking names. If it wasn't enough that they had the Hammer Fleet, bang, now they got a dreadnought to command that. Here we go. Interesting to note that the Hammer Fleet, speaking of, is in the bottom right corner of the map, right on the border with the ISC. Considering what the Carnivon and the Hydrons have done, it would be interesting if the Remans and the ISC did an alliance and did something similar. Just a thought, throwing it out there. As well as we go along those sort of the east border, we can see that there is, was this Columbus Fleet or something? Let's pull these Reman fleets up and see what they're actually named. Cerberus Fleet. No, that's not Cerberus Fleet. Columbia Fleet. Okay, so Columbia Fleet. Oh my God, look at this. So Columbia and Cerberus. Let's pull up those two fleets. Cerberus. Okay. Oh my goodness gracious me. So there's Cerberus. Whoops. I'm just gonna. I accidentally moved a hex. Let's move that. Okay, there we go. Move that there. Move that there. Okay. So we've got Cerberus on the top, Columbia on the bottom. Actually, hold on. Let me move these around so that they're similar to what you see on the map. That would make more sense, wouldn't it? Okay, so Columbia on the top, which is right here, and then Cerberus on the bottom, which is in the bottom right corner. So as you can see, they're both big fleets. The Cerberus fleet, Jesus H. Crikey. 11 frigates, 7 destroyers, 7 cruisers, and a command cruiser. Not a small fleet. Columbia fleet, not to be outdone, 6 frigates, 2 destroyers, and okay. For some reason I was sorry, I'm miscounting here. So 6 and 3 is 9. So 9 frigates, 2 destroyers. No command ship there, but nonetheless, you've got basically a large defensive fleet over the YBS, and then you've got Cerberus fleet on the bottom, which I don't know, maybe with they've built a base in the neutral zone. Let's just look at that. They've built a base in the neutral zone. You know what this makes me think? That there is an alliance, a brewing, and that they're going to send the same thing that the Carnivons are doing, the Remans are going to do with the ISC. So that's going to make things very different. All right, as we go up, we can see that there is a Klingon exploration cruiser that has discovered another Orion base in their space. And of course, there's one down here. We've got the Rykon fleet up in the, let's move these guys out of the way. There's so much when it comes to the Remans. Oh my goodness. So Rykon fleet is in the top right corner here, and you can see that it's just a bunch of it's a trifecta of frigates and a destroyer. So a small little task group just kind of providing security to that planet, and there's a D3, a KD3. So they're just providing security, I guess, for the diplomat to help convert that planet. We've got Monster Squad, which may be employed very shortly here as part of the Riemann New Fleet. And the reason why I keep popping up these fleets is because the Riemanns have so many ships, right? So what's particularly interesting, this fleet has been crippled hard. You've got 4 crippled frigates, 4 crippled destroyers, 3 different cruisers that have been crippled as well. So Monster Squad has been pounded hard, and so it'll be interesting to see how they respond and go to get repaired. Let's talk about the big baddie in the room, Home Fleet. Home Fleet from the Juggernauts. My God. So this is killer. Look at it. Same thing. It's the exact same fleet that the Gorn are dealing with. It is a cruiser with a 12-12, being a mauler. A light cruiser with an 8. Destroyers with straight 6s, 2 of them, and then 3 frigates with 5s. This against possibly the Riemann Prometheus fleet, which is, of course, it's not even comparable. Like the hammer, trust me. I mean, the hammer that the Riemanns have and are is incredible, but Prometheus fleet ain't going to do nothing but scratch the paint when it comes to the Juggernauts. I speak from experience, having dealt with these jerks. So we've got this mammoth Juggernaut fleet that's popped into space. They're probably going to hit and destroy this convoy. Although Prometheus fleet could respond, what are they going to do other than maybe cover? Is there a tug? No, there's no tug. Oh goodness, 2 cruisers, a destroyer, 2 frigates, and 2 crippled frigates. I mean, I just don't see them doing much of anything with Home Fleet. Yeah, I would give Home Fleet, like, take the L on the convoy and just kind of move forward. Basically repositioning big bad fleets to be able to deal with it. Basically, if I'm the Riemanns, I got to move Monster Squad or New Fleet down to wherever I can repair them the fastest and repair that stuff ASAP and go attack those Juggernauts, because that Juggernaut fleet is going to cause huge issues. Now, the good news is, because of the distribution of the bases in that area, you got some time, because it's going to take a little while for them to find the bases if they're going to do it. It gives you some time to move ships into position and potentially deal with them. Just by example, let's say if I'm the Riemanns and I really want to take my big bad fleet and move it in the direction, the good news is everything in Cerberus fleet is a wire ship, meaning it can move 4 hexes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So assuming that the Juggernaut fleet moves towards the homeworld and, in that direction, Cerberus fleet can go and move and probably engage the Juggernaut fleet within 3 turns. So that's good. That's probably the fastest response team that can get there with the biggest punch to do damage. And I would honestly say, if I'm the Riemanns, I'm using Hammer fleet for that, or Cerberus fleet. Go use the hammer and pound that annoying nail that is the Juggernaut fleet. Go do that ASAP, because you don't have any other threats in the bottom corner here, and you can repair and strat move them back down there if you need to. No harm, no foul. So I'm not too worried about the Riemanns, though they're going to certainly get some casualties in the process. Good news is, with the Riemanns with the Riemanns in this situation, you can go to limited war. Especially if they're attacking and destroying your convoy, you can go to limited war for the duration of that fleet being inside your territory for 4 turns, up to 4 turns, and that'll give you a little bit of an economic boost to be able to pump out more ships and do more damage to be able to deal with that issue. Other than that, other than the giant Juggernaut fleet in your in your backyard, things are going well. I see a bunch of tugs here, which are basically looks as though they're getting ready to build bases, which is good. Exploration ships are continuing to do exploration. You've got the D3 Echo, both in the north and the south here, or like north and west, as well as your exploration freighter. Both of those ships, I would move them as quickly and as far as possible away from the Juggernaut fleet, just so that they're not a juicy target, and take advantage of that as best you can. I would also, although not move your C4, your KC4 in such a way that it would become a target, but move it to be able to rendezvous with Cerberus fleet, so that when Cerberus fleet does engage the Juggernaut fleet, that your C4 can engage at the same time, because your C4 will give you a 10 command rating versus your command ship, which will, or D4C, which only has a 9. And that one extra ship can make a difference, right? So just as much firepower as you can drop on the Juggernauts as possible, the better. The more the merrier, as they say. So just get that in there, get her done, and have at it. Woo! Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the chitter chatter. I'll just quickly go through the chat here. One last thing I'm just noticing, like I say, thank you so much for everybody. We have 12 concurrent viewers, which is great, double digits. I love it. We're growing this community as far as the live stream. It's fantastic. Thank you. Only 7 likes. I'm surprised. If you haven't already hit the like button, please feel free to take a second to do that. Let's go through the chat, and then we're going to talk about path forward content that you want to see and so on. So we're going to pick up with George Duffy saying, so if the Gorns sacrifice some ships and travel to ISC, Hydron space, the Juggies will follow? ? I don't know the answer to that question. It would be really interesting if they did, though, wouldn't it? What would you have to do that? What would you have to do to draw the Juggernauts through the wormhole? And here's another thing. From a role-playing perspective, the Juggernauts are responding to ships going through wormholes. They hate it. They don't like it. That's why they're showing up to like stop these ships that are going through wormholes. So if you're going through the wormhole, are they maybe going to follow you to stop you? I don't know. This goes to sort of like figuring out the motivations of the Juggernaut faction as a faction in the game. Very interesting. For those who aren't sort of party to some of the role-playing aspects and role-playing narrative stuff, which of course you can dig into if you join our Discord. You can join our Discord by supporting us on one of the support tiers, the highest support tier on both Coffee and or Patreon, your choice. Pick your poison. You can go to either one of those and get the Discord tier that allows you to gain access to our Discord channel. But the responses that we've been receiving from the Juggernauts have been very automated in nature, like AI-driven, as in like it's a computer talking. So if it's a computer, maybe it's a very sort of, maybe it might be a very simple way to stimulate a response. It's not emotionally driven necessarily, but it's a like if this, then that situation. And if we can do the if, then we can initiate the that. It'd be interesting to experiment, at least be worthwhile a try. Bill, hey, if they move off that gravity well, maybe you can go onto it and go through it, because yes, it'd be interesting to ask Daniel, is the wormhole still there? I believe it probably still is. It's just that the Audi for the Juggernauts also happens to be on that wormhole as well. So it would be interesting to ask if it's possible to still go through that wormhole and pop out the other side. Interesting to ask. Anywho, so yeah, and if you could do that and then draw them into the ISC Hydron space, what would that look like? Wouldn't that be interesting? Wouldn't that change the game on the border there? Woo. And then which direction would they go? Would they go south or would they go north? I mean, oh my God. That could be a whole box of trouble, like a Pandora's box for either side. Oh my God. Okay, Bill. No, George, the wormhole in my space is exit only. But that is, I think it's because they're overlaid. The Audi is where the Juggernauts came out of, but that is also where the wormhole entrance for that wormhole that came out on the Hydron side was, wasn't it? And if it was, then wouldn't you still be able to go through it if it's still there? I don't know. We'd have to ask Daniel. Get confirmation from Daniel about that. But the Hydrons have 2 big fleets right there and base support. I could... What did he say? Hold on. Where'd we go here? Woo! There we go. Okay, so Jim says, I could be certain that a Riemann ship I could be certain that a Riemann ship, not a Klingon. Not sure. Certain. That's stubby fingers. Yes, fat fingers. That's, we all have that problem. Grammar is also a real thing too. Shush, you don't give the GM any ideas. Dell, there's a bigger pest that needs a hammer fleet. It's true. It's true. There are arguably bigger pests out there. What else we got? Jim says, yeah, silent creeping doom of the Tholians. Fact. Bill, haha, catch me. Can't catch me. I am the gingerbread dinosaur. Daniel asking, say, that's an excellent question. As if you went through the wormhole with the juggernauts follow. Into the void. Not when being chased by angry juggies. Ha ha ha. Okay. Well, this is certainly getting interesting as far as the map goes and how things are developing and how the Juggernaut factions sort of playing into things. And woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Okay. I apologize that I have not celebrated our most recent subscriber, which is Lucius292. Thank you very much, Lucius, for joining the show. If you've made it this far past the 2-hour mark, then whew, man, you are dedicated. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you joining our community here at Star Trek New Worlds. Speaking of our community, what is it that you guys want to see and hear? And the reason I asked that specifically, and I've mentioned it before, of course, is that we've been putting out different kinds of content. So, for example, we've got these live streams here where we talk about the turns. Obviously, based on how many concurrent viewers we have and the size of our community, it seems as though this is something you all enjoy. Good. We will keep doing this because we enjoy it and it's fun and it's good times. 2, the tutorials. It would seem like the tutorials don't get as much traction. Like, we just don't watch them as much. So the question is, do they have value for you? Do you want me to still keep doing them? And or is there specific stuff that you want to hear about that I'm not doing? So, for example, I have the tech tree one that, like I say, I've got in the can, and I will hopefully release that. I'll release that in the early part of next week. And what other stuff would you like to see of? And is it stuff that you want to watch? And in sort of extrapolating off that and sort of number 3, what other kind of stuff do you want to see? For example, we have the trailer for the campaign, which you can obviously find on our YouTube channel and has been one of our most, and actually is, as of right now, the most popular video on the channel. It's a short 60-second video that everyone sort of like just enjoys watching, gives you kind of a little glimpse into what this is all about. But is there more content like that that you would like to see? For example, Paul is our phenomenal CGI creator artist who developed all that stuff, and is that something that you would like to see more? You want to see more of his work, and if that's stuff that we can do, great. I'll work with Paul. Granted, it's slow coming with the CGI stuff because it's so labor intensive, and again, this isn't all of our full-time gigs, so we do it on the side. So it's just a matter of time. And but Paul is very talented and does a great job. And I'm a huge fan, as I'm sure many of you are, or at least the view count of those videos would seem to indicate that you are as well. So if you want to see more of that, let me know. And are there any other ideas of stuff that you would like to see? Don't be shy. Put it in the comments. Put it in the chat. I can see Robert already here has put some stuff in. So we talked about, here's an idea, the first 50 turns, which is sort of like a catch-up to where we are now. We could go through the first 50 turns and talk to our players and say, okay, talk to me about your faction, and sort of like do an interview style thing where we spend maybe like 15, 20, 30 minutes talking to players about their faction. And many of our players, most of them, have webcams and are willing to do these kinds of interviews. Is that something that would be useful for you to watch? Would you enjoy that? Would it be interesting? If so, we can do that. The Robert says, I like the tutorials myself. I hope you continue with them. Okay, Jim says, me too. So would it be, we recently did the Brews and Blood Wine, which was sort of like a chitty chat conversation. I think that was the one where we had the discussion with Daniel, our GM. Would you like more of that kind of content? If so, we can do that too. The interview style, one-on-one, chitty-chatty kind of conversation. If you like that stuff, we can do more of that. You just let me know, and we can go down that road. It's just a matter of, at the end of the day, we enjoy playing the game. We want to create this community of players who like to play the game and have fun and do this stuff and sort of celebrate the fun that we have playing it. If we can drive stuff towards, ADB and like get more people educated and interested in reading the rules and wanting to play the game and buying the box set and all this kind of stuff, and wanting to play in these kinds of campaigns. Because at the end, we're just building this community of players who enjoy this stuff. And that's what we're about. Like, we just want to have fun, have a good time. And if you like doing that, we're all going to do it together. Let me see what we got. Your video on combat tutorial is well over 400 views. Thank you, Robert. It is. The combat tutorial is the sort of the better of the bunch. We'll see. Haven't played F&E yet, though tutorials are great. Please keep doing them, George says. Okay. Happy to keep doing those. Like I say, it's just about what works. Now, there's a difference between the short-term stuff and the long-term stuff as far as views and so on. The live streams tend to be relatively short-term in the sense that they have a certain amount of views over the course of the week, but then they kind of die off. This is sort of like the YouTube lifespan of videos. And it's a matter of like whether any particular video has a longevity or a long-term life. And sometimes videos can sit there forever, and it's just a matter of changing the thumbnail, and cha-ching, it changes and various other things. We'll chalk that up to YouTube skills that I'm continuing to develop here. So anyways, we'll keep going down that road, and we'll explore sort of different stuff and kind of content. We'll experiment and see what works. Again, it's all about time. How much time do we have to do this stuff? We have players from across all sorts of different time zones, literally opposite sides of the planet. We have, for example, the Hydron player Jim is in the UK. The Carnarvon player is in Australia. A bunch of us are in North America, all over the place. It's exciting and fun and just such a great thing that we can bring so many people together. And would you like to see some kind of, ADB tie-in? Is there something that could we reach out to them and if they were willing and able, would there be some kind of stuff that you'd like to do there? That'd be, I don't know what that would look like, but we can explore that option. We'll see how that works. And lastly, for everybody, here's a big question for you. There was one of our viewers reached out to me on Facebook and shared some art that they did with regards to the channel, and I really liked it. And I was thinking it would look great on a hat or a T-shirt or a badge or something. Now the thing is, when it comes to stuff like that, we would never be able to create merchandise that uses IP, intellectual property, from Star Trek. As we all know, intellectual property rights in Star Trek is a huge schmoz and mess, and we don't want to get into that. But what we could do is artwork that's related to our New Worlds campaign and the channel. Different, of course, from Strange New Worlds, which is the new series that's coming out, which I'm very excited for. But New Worlds being we are discovering new worlds in this campaign. So we could create stuff around that. That would be great. And would you like to see that? If so, what would you like? Would you like a T-shirt? Would you like a hat? Would you like a badge, like a Velcro badge or patch or something? What would you like? We can experiment with that and see what works. And if you are watching this video and you enjoy what we do and you're an artist of any type and you want to sort of send it our way, then please connect with me on Facebook. I will slowly, as I'm puttering away here, pulling up the Facebook page for New Worlds. I will post it in the chat, and I will leave it in the comments below. Also, you can reach out to us on Patreon and Coffee if you so choose. Yeah, you can, I'm just popping it in the chat here, and now here is the link to our, there we go. That's the link to our Facebook page. And if you want to go there, and you can connect with me and Facebook message me if you'd like, and share any of the art or anything that you want. If you want to reach out and connect and do anything, you can do that there. It's like I say, I'm consistently and continually surprised, pleasantly so, by this great community. and what everyone's doing. So thank you so much for your support, for enjoying this, for watching this, and away we go. All right. We're past 2 hours now. Seems to be the status quo for these live streams. So I want to say thank you very much. The Remans want a New Worlds Mankini. Goodness gracious. Banana hammock, here we come. Anywho, you let me know what works what works best for you, and we can. The good news is when we get to 500 subscribers, we can do a poll. Because it's part of the community tab, and we could find that out in real time from all of you. So help us get to that community tab, which we get at 500 subscribers. So I think we're 217 at the start of this live stream. So if you know anybody who enjoys all things Star Trek, SFB, ADB, FNE, and so on, then please share this video with them, share our channel, help us build the community, get more subscribers, and get to that community tab so that we can do things like that and find out more information from you about how we can better serve you and provide you the fun and entertainment and stuff that we all enjoy. All right, that's it. It's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you so much. I will talk to you next week. Bye for now.